I want to describe a feeling. You are in a room full of people. Maybe it's a party, maybe it's a family dinner, maybe it's a work surrounded by colleagues you see every day. And everyone around you is laughing, talking, connecting, and you are there, physically present, probably even smiling. But somewhere inside you, there is this quiet, aching feeling of being completely invisible. Not because nobody can see you, but because nobody really knows you. And the loneliness of that, the loneliness of being unseen in a full room, is somehow so much heavier than the loneliness of actually being alone. If you have ever felt that and never had words for this video is for you. Because what you have been experiencing is not antisocial behavior, it's not ingratitude, it's not you being difficult or broken or too much. It is one of the most psychologically complex and least talked about human experiences there is. And today, we are going to understand it completely. First, let's name what we're actually talking about. Because there are different kinds of loneliness, and most people only recognize one. The kind most people understand is social loneliness, the absence of people in your life, not having friends, not having community. That kind is visible, understandable, even socially acceptable to talk about. But what you might be experiencing is something researchers call existential loneliness or emotional loneliness. And this is entirely different. Emotional loneliness is not about how many people are in the room, it's about the quality of the connection you feel with them. It's the gap between your surface self, the one that shows up, smiles, makes conversation, and your deeper self, the one that has thoughts nobody hears, feelings nobody asks about, a whole inner world that never quite makes it into the room with you. Psychologist John Cacioppo, one of the world's leading researchers on loneliness, spent decades studying this. And one of the most striking findings was this: loneliness is not measured by the number of relationships you have, it is measured by the perceived gap between the connection you have and the connection you deeply need. You can be married and feel profoundly lonely. You can have 100 friends and feel like nobody knows you. You can be surrounded by family every single day and feel like a stranger in your own life. Because the loneliness isn't out there, it lives in the gap between who you show people and who you actually are. So, why does this gap exist? Why do so many of us walk around with this hidden interior life that never fully makes it into our relationships? The answer almost always goes back to early experiences of connection. As children, we were extremely sensitive to what was safe to express and what wasn't. If your emotions were consistently met with dismissal, stop being so sensitive. You are overreacting. Don't be so dramatic. You learned very quickly that your inner world was too much, that the full version of you was not welcome. And so, you adapted. You became skilled at presenting the version of yourself that was acceptable. The lighter version, the easier version, the version that didn't make people uncomfortable. Psychologists call this the performed self, the curated identity we present to the world as a protection mechanism. And the tragedy of this performed self is this: the better you get at performing, the more invisible the real you becomes, even to yourself. There's a concept in Jungian psychology called the persona, the mask we wear in social situations. It's understood that the persona is necessary. We all need to navigate social roles. But it was also warned that when the persona becomes the only self we know, when we have worn the mask so long we forgot the face beneath it, the result is a profound, aching sense of unreality, of going through the motions, of being in the room but not really being there. The feeling has a name, and it is not a character flaw. It is the inevitable result of decades of learned self concealment. In hypnotherapy, I find that beneath this kind of loneliness, there is almost always a very specific fear. Not the fear of being alone, the fear of being truly seen and then rejected. Because if you show someone the real you, the full, unfiltered, complex, messy, beautiful, real you, and they leave, or they laugh, or they look uncomfortable, or they simply don't understand, that rejection goes so much deeper than surface rejection. It feels like proof of the thing you've always feared most, that the real you is too much, or not enough, or fundamentally unlovable. And so the subconscious makes a very logical decision: keep the real self hidden, stay safe, stay in the room but never fully arrive. And the cruel irony is this: the very protection mechanism that was designed to keep you safe from rejection is the thing creating the loneliness. You cannot feel truly connected to people who only know your performed self, because deep down you know that connection isn't real. You know they like the version of you that showed up, not the version that exists when no one is watching. Real connection requires real visibility, and real visibility requires the kind of courage that most of us were never taught. So, how do you begin to close that gap? How do you start to bring the real you into the room? Here are three things that I believe genuinely move the needle. One, start by being real with yourself first. You cannot be known by others if you don't know yourself. And many of us have been performing for so long that we've genuinely lost touch with what we actually think, feel, want, and need underneath the performance. Spend 10 minutes every day. Journal, walk, sit quietly, and ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Not what you should be feeling, not what would be easy to feel. What is actually there? That practice of honest self witnessing is the foundation of everything. You cannot share what you haven't first allowed yourself to know. Two, practice micro vulnerability in safe relationships. You don't have to bare your soul to everyone. In fact, please don't. Not every relationship can hold the full weight of you, and that's okay. But find one person, one relationship where there is genuine safety, and practice being a little more real. Share one thing you actually think instead of the diplomatic version. Admit one feeling instead of performing fine. Vulnerability researcher Brene Brown found that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the birthplace of genuine human connection. Every real relationship you've ever had began with something being willing to be just a little bit more real. Be that person first and watch what it creates. 3. Grieve the connections that can't hold the real you. This one is tender but important. Some of the loneliness you feel in full rooms is grief. Grief that the relationships around you, for whatever reason, cannot hold the full depth of who you are. And sometimes that is about the other person's capacity. Sometimes it is about history. Sometimes it is simply about incompatibility at the level of soul. You are allowed to grieve that. You're allowed to acknowledge that some connections in your life are surface level and to stop exhausting yourself trying to make them deep. And then, gently, without drama, start making space for the ones that can. Begins with slowly bringing more of the real you into the light, first for yourself, then for the people who have earned it. You deserve to be fully known, without the performance, without the mask, and somewhere out there in the connection still waiting for you, you will be. Save this if this resonated. Share it with someone who has ever felt alone in a full room, because they need to know they are not alone. And subscribe if you want to keep having these conversations. Thank you for watching. Bye.